In this week's drive, we join the world champion on the cobblestones of Paris, rip up some rubber in the heat of the desert sand, see a major upset among the sport's elite, and throw it all away on the leaps of Spain. All this and more in this week's Drive. We start this week with a look at the way racetracks have changed. Here at the venerable Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium, the track is part public road, nestled into the countryside. It's fast, challenging and dangerous. Modern circuits are created on computers like the ones used by renowned designer Hermann Tilke, where new circuits in Malaysia, Bahrain and Shanghai were born. The circuit designer doesn't make things easy, either for himself or the drivers.
With the design of the track itself, it's actually quite a challenge to create something to make the drivers or the equipment go wrong. It's incredibly difficult because they are all so good, the Formula One drivers. It's hard to force them into making mistakes. But it is nice if you've got a corner where mistakes happen now and then.
This year, two brand new multi-million-dollar tracks were built in Shanghai in China and in Bahrain in the Persian Gulf. Both were built at huge expense as showpieces for their dynamic countries. Both are state-of-the-art tracks full of technical details and designed for both maximum performance and good television viewing. Imagine the challenge of creating all the infrastructure out in the flat and featureless desert. Yet the designers managed to make the track a challenge for the drivers, and some were caught out by the tricky flowing corners. Before the race, Jenson Button stood in the middle of the new Chinese track, completely baffled as to how he would tackle the sequence of flowing turns. He managed well enough in the actual race, claiming second place behind Rubens Barrichello. Incidentally, the track is shaped like the Chinese character Shang, standing for high or above. Not just the drivers, though. The rest of the team had their work cut out, trying to establish a good setup on a brand new track. At BMW Williams, the team used a grid of three-dimensional reference points to build a computer map of the new layout.
And we typically have a string of points, maybe a metre apart, and they'll capture things like the curbs and what shape the curb is, and the elevation and the camber of the track. So when we're doing our simulation, then the virtual car is driving around that 3D model of the circuit.
Drivers will do anything to try and get a feel for a new or revamped track. Some use a road car, a scooter, a bicycle, or just walk around it. Others use the latest version of video games.
There's like a lot of games like at the tracks. That was good. When I used to race Formula 3000, I would go to a track. I used to play, like the computer, play, and that was a lot of fun. Then now there's tracks you need to go there, and the idea is to take your road car around. Just go there, do 4 or 5 laps to really know where you're going, and that's it.
However, new tracks are few and far between. Much more effort goes into updating and modifying existing tracks, mostly in the interests of safety, such as here at Imola. Extra runoff zones and gravel traps can do the trick, for some.
The way circuits have developed is very positive. Runoff zones have changed, curbs have changed. The designers are making sure that cars can no longer crash pretty much head-on into any solid objects, crash barriers or walls. And the trend is currently away from gravel traps and more towards asphalt. That's normally a good thing when you've got all 4 wheels on the ground, you just turn around and carry on. But as soon as something goes wrong, I'm not so sure. We'll have to wait and see.
Of course, Ralph was involved in a huge crash at Indianapolis when he hit the wall. Tracks must be as safe as possible while being challenging for drivers and exciting for spectators. And that's why the modification of tracks will continue indefinitely. It was a very unusual preparation session for Michael Schumacher's Ferrari team personnel as they got the world champion's car ready for a demonstration run in Paris. The roar of a Formula One engine reverberated down the Champs-Élysées and around the Place de la Concorde in Paris on a cold, damp Sunday in December, as Formula One ace Schumacher led a special fundraising victory parade. Schumacher, who won his 7th title this year in the F2004 car, was part of a 5-car traffic-stopping parade from the Arc de Triomphe to the Health Ministry. Ferrari's chairman Jean Todt, who is French, ex-Formula One drivers René Arnoux and Patrick Tambay, and Sauber's Felipe Massa accompanied the German in road-going Ferraris. Schumacher was in Paris to take part in the Race of Champions event at the Stade de France, which pits circuit drivers against rally aces and which we'll see later on in Drive. The event raised funds to create an institute for brain and spinal cord disorders, a charity backed by Todt and Schumacher. During the week, Ferrari announced a partnership with an Indian computer company. Engineers and specialists from Tata will provide IT services for the development of the Formula One team and also the road cars from next season beginning in March. The collection and processing of millions of data elements with speed and accuracy is a daily business at Scuderia Ferrari. The deal makes Tata Consulting Services, or TCS, the first Indian company to enter Formula One alongside the famous team. Next year, there are 19 Grand Prix races in 17 countries on 4 continents. At the Health Ministry, Schumacher and Todt listened to a presentation by the French Health Minister. Over the last few weeks, Jean Todt has been working on a proposal to cut the costs involved in Formula One, especially for the smaller teams, by limiting the amount of testing between races. His suggestions haven't been widely supported, even by the teams who should benefit. But when questioned about the suggestions and their reception, he sidestepped the issue to praise the Brain and Spinal Cord Disorders Institute's staff, doctors and technicians.
When we summarise our lives or our careers, even as we look into the future, I believe some obligations remain. And this effort by this exceptional group of people for an equally exceptional goal can only make us dream. We know the road ahead will be long and difficult, but this is probably one of the most beautiful goals existing today.
Meanwhile, most of the teams were already hard at work testing new drivers and developments in Spain, with Ferrari always near the top of the timesheets. Team Lebanon has become the 3rd motor racing consortium to launch their racing car to take part in next year's A1 Grand Prix series. The team presented their car in Beirut in front of Lebanese dignitaries, including President Emil Lahoud. Lebanon is the 3rd national team to be announced and joins Great Britain and South Africa in having presented their national cars.
Ladies and gentlemen, I must warn you, for those with a gentle disposition, that the sound of the car will be very, very loud. Then, as well, there's the pride factor, the honor of being able to associate our team with our people around the world, not just in Lebanon, but in North America, South America, Australia. The Lebanese, they're everywhere.
A1 Grand Prix is a series of races which will begin in September 2005, when most international racing series are coming to an end. The races will feature 1 car each from various countries around the world, racing each other at tracks around the globe in what the organisers are describing as the World Cup of Motorsport. In addition to the UK, South Africa and Lebanon, teams from China, Australia, Pakistan, Malaysia and Portugal are confirmed. More recently, teams from Turkey, South Korea, the Netherlands and Mexico were announced. The holder of the Lebanon seat is Nadmi Auchi, a Lebanese businessman of Iraqi descent who's involved in rebuilding Beirut.
It's a message to mainly the Lebanese and also the Arab countries to come back to this country and do business, because the possibilities of benefiting both sides, the country and the investors, is there.
The series is expected to attract entries from countries that do not have a great involvement in motorsport at present, and it's already being used to promote their image both to tourists and investors.
And each country has its own message to deliver about themselves and their own statement. For example, Lebanon has a statement that says that we've been through a war, but look where we are today. And they are desperate to make that statement to the world.
The very next day, Beirut would shake to a new sound. The ancient city's residents watched a full-blown racing car driving through their narrow streets for the first time as the new Team Lebanon showed off the car. The series founder, Sheikh Maktoum bin Maktoum Al Maktoum, drove the car on a demonstration run through the streets of Old Beirut. The A1 cars will all be built by Lola, a respected British racing car manufacturer with over 40 years' experience, spanning sports, endurance, Formula One and champ cars. Minus fuel and driver, the car weighs about 600 kilos and is powered by a specialist 3.4-litre Z-Tech racing V8 engine that weighs just 120 kilos but delivers 520 horsepower. Put another way, the A1 cars weigh about half what a high-powered Volkswagen Golf does, but produce about 5 times as much power. Each A1GP event will have 2 days of practice and qualifying with 2 races on race day. The first will be a short sprint race of between 15 and 20 minutes, and positions will decide the grid for the main event, which will last for between 40 minutes and an hour. Points and prize money will be scored down to 10th place, with a bonus point for the fastest lap of the day. Tamim Ouchi, the team principal and son of a Lebanese national seat holder, was pleased with the demonstration.
Oh, great! It's wonderful. We've had such a great turnout, and the atmosphere is wonderful. Everyone's really excited about it, and it's given them a little taste of what it might be like to actually have a street circuit in Lebanon here.
Top-class motorsport returned to the new Bahrain International Circuit as the inaugural Bahrain GT Festival pitted 48 sports car crews against the desert track. The GT Festival was the first major international event at the facility since Michael Schumacher won the Grand Prix in April. After 2 days and 4 heats, Australian David Brabham and Alan Simonsen of Denmark took victory in a Ferrari 550 Maranello. Simonsen started the final from pole position, the team having won 2 of the 3 qualifying heats and built an early advantage before Brabham took over the wheel. Russia's Sergei Zlobin and Jean-Philippe Belloc of France were contesting the lead placings when a burst tyre ended their race in spectacular fashion. Brabham and Simonsen secured the title by winning the hour-long final in which teams had to carry out a driver change. Their biggest threat came from the DDO Saline and the Vipers fielded by Force One and Labre, which grabbed second place for Frédéric Dedurs and Frédéric Makowicki, with the French Saline eventually taking third. At a specially designed course in the Stade de France Stadium in Paris, Michael Schumacher, the most successful driver in Formula One history with 7 world titles and 83 race wins, was beaten by up-and-coming Finn, Heikki Kovalainen. The youngest and least experienced driver in the event, he said he was able to adapt to the cars very quickly and found more grip. He also learnt the circuit very quickly and set lap records with every car he drove. Born in October 1981 near Helsinki, Heikki Kovalainen raced a kart before taking part in the 2001 British Formula Renault Championship, where he finished 4th overall. The following year, Kovalainen claimed 3rd position in the British Formula 3 Championship. The young Finn continued his learning process by entering the World Series by Nissan Championship in 2003 alongside Franck Montagny, and in 2004 he won the title. You could tell he was pretty happy to win. Not many people get to jump onto the roof of a racing Ferrari, having just beaten probably the greatest racing driver in history. Afterwards, Michael graciously admitted that the young Finn had something special. Schumacher's boss, Ferrari chief Jean Todt, and Scotsman Colin McRae and David Coulthard all seemed amused by the winner's antics, especially since the other Formula One Finns, Mika Häkkinen and Kimi Räikkönen, would never behave like that. In the final, Kovalainen narrowly beat the fastest of the rally drivers, world rally champion Sébastien Loeb of France. The next day, Formula One pilot turned DTM driver Jean Alesi also beat Schumacher in one heat. But Schumacher was able to beat rally champion Loeb to win the World Champions Challenge. Schumacher lost the second of 3 heats to level the scores, but he beat Loeb by almost a second to clinch the World Champions Challenge by 2 wins to 1. Then, race and rally drivers combined to form national teams. Schumacher for Germany, Felipe Massa for Brazil. Scottish drivers David Coulthard and Colin McRae made up the British team for the Nations Cup. Kovalainen teamed up with former rally champion Marcus Gronholm, and they dispatched the Brits for a place in the final where they met France. The Nations Cup has established itself as motorsport's equivalent to the World Cup. Kovalainen beat Jean Alesi in the specially designed single-seaters before Loeb levelled the scores with a win against Marcus Gronholm in Citroën rally cars, like the one he drove this year. Kovalainen took his second victory against Alesi in the Ferrari 360 Modena Challenge to set up a 2-1 advantage. Then Loeb thwarted Gronholm in the Peugeot rally cars to make it 2 victories each, leaving Alesi to face Kovalainen one last time in the decisive shootout. The 62,000 spectators were on their feet, most of them to cheer on the tricolores, but the duel unfortunately fizzled out when the Finnish driver was suddenly slowed by a mechanical problem in his 360 Ferrari Modena. Gronholm was understandably disappointed not to have succeeded in adding a second Finnish win in the ROC Nations Cup after his country's win in the inaugural event in 1999. Alesi and Loeb reached the final after eliminating their countrymen Sébastien Bourdais and Stéphane Sarrazin in the PlayStation French team and Felipe Massa and Tony Kanaan of Brazil, while the Finns defeated Kenny Brack and Matthias Ekström from neighbouring Sweden and the British pair on their way to the last round. The Middle East is becoming one of the world's busiest areas for international motorsport. Nasser Al Attiyah looks likely to finish runner-up to Sheikh Khalid Al Qasimi in the Middle East Rally Championship. But this is the new Qatar Baha, a candidate event for the FIA Cross Country Rallies World Cup. Former bike racer Juan Roma was using the event to get to know his new Mitsubishi ahead of the Dakar Rally next month. But here, Al Attiyah was in commanding form on home turf, or perhaps that should be sand. Briton Mark Powell was running a brand new Land Rover. This is punishing terrain for machines. Admittedly, there are long straight stretches, but that sand eats into moving parts. The cars completed 2 laps, the bikes and quads just a single circuit in the desert. For the quads, this counted as a national event. Qatar's Abdallah Al Shamain took victory in the class. 3 hours, 46 minutes and 55 seconds was his aggregate time. Many competitors in cars, quads and bikes struggled with navigational as well as technical problems. Tim Trenker was the man to catch in the motorbike section. The Dubai-based German rider was embroiled in a fierce contest with Oscar Poli during the early stages, and the Italian refused to give in. His countryman Angelo Montico was the second quad home, 24 minutes behind Al Shaman. Back with the cars, Nasser Salih Al Attiyah won the prologue and kept that form going throughout the 2 days. 39 minutes ahead after the first loop, he kept on pushing his Chevrolet Pro truck, well served by French co-driver Didier Legel. The leader's brother, Khalifa Al Attiyah, could do no better than third initially and eventually dropped back. By the end of Saturday's 230-kilometre leg down towards Zaka on Qatar's east coast, Nasser Al Attiyah's lead had almost doubled. In pre-Dakar testing, the Mitsubishi Pajero of Juan Roma fared well. Alongside Henri Magny, the Spaniard would finish in second place, 66 minutes adrift, with another Qatari, Jirala Ali, third in a Land Rover. Trenka on his KTM recorded the biggest victory of his career, 6 minutes ahead of the experienced Italian Oscar Poli. While Roma would stick with Mitsubishi in the Paris-Dakar, Alatia will be driving a BMW. But in the Baja, Middle East Rally champ Alatia was in a class of his own. He was back when Dubai hosted the final round of the Middle East Rally Championships. Sheikh Khalid Al Qasimi of the UAE held a substantial lead over Nasser Salih Alatia. Anything better than 9th place would give him a first Middle East Rally title. Just 2 drivers were still in contention for the championship going into the 8th and final rally of the season. Fresh from his Baja win, Alatia, the defending champion, couldn't influence his rival's performance, but he drove to win. The Qatari, joined by British co-driver Chris Patterson, won 6 of Thursday's 7 special stages and held a 1-minute 39-second lead at the end of day 1. Sheikh Al Qasimi could only manage 1 stage win and 2 second places on Thursday. However, preservation was the order of the day for him. As long as he could finish each stage in one piece, the title would be his. Lebanese duo Abdo Fagali and Joseph Matter consolidated their position on day 2 by finishing 3rd in each of Friday's 7 special stages, and they finished the rally in 3rd place. Alatia was unstoppable on day 2 and he drove his Subaru to victory in all 7 special stages. Sheikh Al Qasimi finished 2nd in all of Fridays, enough for 2nd place overall, and he was crowned Middle East Rally Champion on home soil. Defending champion Eddie Seal of Belgium secured pole position for the last Supermoto GP of the season, but it was Thierry van der Bosch who dominated in Spain. His campaign to win his 2nd World Championship was given a boost when defending champion Eddie Seal had a fall on the exit to one of the hybrid dirt and tarmac circuit's jumps, losing several places. Britain's Matthew Winstanley came 3rd to finish the season in 11th place overall. Nearest challenger for the title, Boris Chambon, was making progress and passed Max Manzo before retiring on lap 8. Van den Bosch crossed the line nearly 14 seconds ahead of the 2nd place Gerard Delapine, a convincing win to end a dominating season. He had a perfect day, winning both heats overall and the championship.
More, I think it's not possible. Yeah, it's a great day again, I would say. End of the great season. For sure, it's wonderful to win again the World Championship.
Chambon was 2nd in the championship, Delapine 3rd, and Eddie Seal 4th. After a tough qualifying session with 10 riders separated by less than a second, only S2 class leader Max Verderosa was able to make the difference with his 2nd pole position of the season. But he got off to a poor start when the lights went out and his nearest championship rival, Jérôme Girardeau on an Aprilia, grabbed the lead, ahead of Andrea Bartolini and Davide Gozzini. Midway through the race, Adrien Charret made a pass on Girardeau to lead the race. Unfortunately for Massimo Verderosa, the race and his championship slipped away with the front runners. Girardeau had to win to claim the title, and thanks to an inspired ride, he did, crossing the line 1/3 of a second ahead of Italian Davide Gozzini to seal victory and the title. He came from 9th place to overtake and overhaul championship leader Max Verderosa by just 4 points. In 3rd place was Adrien Charret. 10 races and some new rules are on the cards for next season. So, whether you're falling off the road, carving up the desert, or rattling windows in Beirut, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.